Hey, 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 welcome back to Stop It. I'm your host, Emily Erb, and I am so excited because I have an amazing guest. Her name is Annie Miller, spelled with an E, not an IE. She's a body and business coach helping women who look successful on the outside reconnect with their bodies. She blends movement, nutrition, mindset, and identity work to help women lead and live with strength instead of running on fumes. She's a wife, a mom of four, and married to her high school sweetheart, building a full life while guiding women to do the same. Oh my goodness, I just learned a couple new things about you. I had no idea you had four kids and you married your high school sweetheart. I love this. So, without further ado, I'd love to welcome Annie on the show, and we're going to have a really fun conversation. I cannot wait. Hey, hey,
Yeah,
hey, Annie.
excited. How are you?
Good. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's just get into it and share a little bit more about your story and kind of what made you choose the way you serve women.
Yeah. So kind of like the long story short version of this is that I have always loved exercise. I realized so yeah, married my high school sweetheart. We got married super young. I was 3 weeks shy of 19 when we got married.
That's
So we got married.
amazing.
We had a honeymoon baby, and so we just jumped right into parenthood and all the
Sure
things.
did.
And we had our four kids in 7 years, so we had our kids quickly. And I realized like exercise was kind of my sanity saver. It was the thing that made it so if I would go exercise, I could come home and like pour back into my kids and pour back into family life so much better. And I just really, really enjoyed moving my body and noticed how much it really helped my mental health and my physical body. But like it really, really supported my mental health. But I would have conversations with other women, and it seemed like their relationship with exercise was more like a thing they had to do because they ate something that they felt like they weren't supposed to eat, or because like generally just some form of punishment for something that they ate or something that they were going to eat, or whatever. And I remember having this conversation with one woman in particular and saying like, but don't you just kind of love it? And she was like, no, I hate it. Like I run because I eat cookies. And I was like, oh, huh. And then
Mhm.
as I started having more conversations, I realized that narrative was pretty common. There were a lot of women who really just treated exercise as punishment. And I was like, I want to change that. Like, I love exercising so much. It's so good for me. It has nothing to do with what I eat. But I also kind of did notice that when I was more conscious about movement, I would pay more attention to my nutrition. It would help me sleep a little bit better. It would help me be more mindful of drinking water. And so it was kind of like the anchor habit that was helping everything else fall into place. And so I really wanted to help other women learn to love that. And I wanted to be a personal trainer, but I had this like sneaky little belief in the
Mhm.
background that was like, you don't look like a personal trainer. You got to look like a personal trainer before you can start training women. And so that really sent me on this like quest to find the right diet so that I could fix my body so that I would look like a personal trainer. And what happened instead is that I joined a nutrition program with the intention of fixing my body and learned a whole bunch of stuff about mindset and the way that I was thinking about things. And I really realized how much, though I had a great relationship with exercise, there was a lot about nutrition that I needed to rethink. And there was a lot about my body that I needed to rethink. And so I ended up doing a coaching certification and becoming a nutrition coach, and then getting my personal training certification. And just as I started working with women, I realized that we weren't just transforming bodies, we were transforming lives. And it just has kind of evolved from there.
Annie, I think that's why you and I, when we connected just like a few months ago, why we just really resonated with each other because everything you just said, I think so many women can relate to with having the way they view food and the way they were viewing exercise, and how when you can get to like the beliefs in the stories, that's when you can do that inner work. That's when you get the transformation from the inside out. It's so much more than just learning about, macro counting or how to eat for your body. It's also learning about like, why do we have these beliefs? Where are they coming from? Right. Like, and starting to really question those and ask yourself if they're really true or not. And I have a question for you because I'm just curious because I know a lot of women that I work with and as you work with, they do struggle with using exercise as a form of either punishment because they ate something that they feel like they shouldn't have, or they're using exercise so that they can eat. And you said that you always loved exercise. So that was something that never came up for you. Like you just did it out of the joy of exercise. And was that modeled for you as a child, or like where do you think that came from?
Yeah, definitely was not modeled for me growing up. Exercise wasn't something, I mean, I think I may have seen my mom do one or two like Richard Simmons videos at home as a
Yeah.
kid, like my parents weren't regular exercisers. I think it probably really just came from personal experience because I would definitely say that I probably initially started it with a thought of, maybe it would help me, lose baby weight or whatever. But it wasn't like a dominating thought. It was just kind of like I had several friends in my neighborhood at the time that were training for half marathons, and I had never done anything like that. And I was kind of like, maybe I'll train for a half marathon. And so even from the start, it ended up kind of being like a performance goal more than like a change my body goal. Um, and so it was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll do that. We'll see. And I just would like go for these runs, and it didn't matter how fast or how slow I was going.
Yeah.
It was like it made me so present. I would like pay attention to the leaves under my feet and watching cars go by me, and just whatever was happening. And it made me so present. And I just remember so often just feeling this like relief. Oh, I ran. Okay, like now I feel like I can go home. I can take care of my kids. I can do whatever else I need to do in the day, and I would just feel so much better.
Wow. Annie, that's amazing. Like I feel like that's and well, I'm curious too, like what planted the seed for you to, since it wasn't like moder or behavior modeled for you, what made you want to just like, I'm gonna just start exercising?
Yeah, I think it was because there were a few other women in my neighborhood at the time that we had a book club together. And so they would
Okay.
also talk about like they would go running together or things like that. And I was kind of like,
Okay.
I mean,
Oh, just join
I'm
in. Yeah.
not like a fast runner, but I guess I could. Like, I can run. Everyone can run, right? And
Yeah.
so it wasn't something that I was like super excited about, but I also didn't really have any like I'm not athletic type beliefs, which I know a lot of women do, and that kind of holds them back from exercise too. It was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I think I could probably do
You could
that.
do
And
it.
so I just did.
And I wonder too, like, because I'm thinking about my own experience with exercise. And when I first started, I wanted to actually just get in shape for my last soccer season because I was always the slowest, or maybe not the slowest, but when you play soccer and you're not conditioned before it, like you just can't play to your full potential. And so I invested in a coach, which it was my godmother. I just was like, "Hey, do you want to like coach me on how to run and how to get in shape?" I didn't know how to do that. And by in shape, I mean like conditioned to
Yeah.
run for long
Yeah.
periods. Yeah. And it like I fell in love with it. And she showed me such a fun way to run. Like we would get up early in the mornings and she would just make it so fun. And then we would have like we'd make a smoothie afterwards and have like baked oatmeal and then we'd sign up for fun races. And so I initially fell in love with exercise from a place of like, I wanted to do it. I didn't feel like it was something that I had to do or had to earn food. But I recognized along the way, somewhere along the way, it changed. And it changed from like joy to I feel like was exercising from fear. Like if
Mhm.
I don't run a certain amount, because I ended up really getting my miles up really high. Like before kids, I was running like 50 plus miles each week. And I felt like, oh, I have to maintain this. And
Mhm.
then it's like if I couldn't run like 5 miles every day, then like I would go, well, what's the point? So like I was already like conditioning myself with that all or nothing mindset. And then also like tying into, well, I need to run this amount so that I don't gain weight or that I can maintain my weight. And so that's been definitely a journey. And I'm so glad I came out on the other side of it. But like, I'm curious to see when you also are working with women with like repairing their relationship with exercise in their body, like what's one of the things that you like for them to start? Like what's an easy place for them to start maybe like questioning their beliefs? Because I think so many of us don't even really understand what beliefs are, or like we're unaware of like how beliefs are running like or I'm sorry, that are the reason why we're doing our actions, right? Like, so where would you have someone just to kind of start to like question, well, how is my relationship with exercise? And like, is it serving me?
Yeah. It's interesting because I would say that overall my clients have generally kind of fallen in one of two camps. Camp one is they've done every diet on the planet and including lots of different types of exercise. And so in their minds and bodies, exercise has always very much been tied to the shape of their body. And so with women who are in that camp, it's like generally talking conversations about like movement that they love,
Mhm.
and trying to like dial things back a little bit so that there's not so much of the all or nothing thinking of it, and just trying to help them notice when they're thinking like, if I don't run today, XYZ, right? So maybe it's having a conversation about their NEAT over what the calories that you actually burn during exercise. Like, what's your overall lifestyle? Because 1 hour at the gym really does not make that big of a dent in your overall nutrition, especially if you're someone who leads a relatively sedentary lifestyle. If you have a desk job, but you go to the gym for 1 hour, the calories you burn over here just aren't really going to
Mhm.
make a dent. And I don't say that to like discourage people from exercising. Of course, I want people moving their bodies more, but just to try and help them see that like this is like the bottom of the pyramid when we're talking about, or I guess the tip, whatever. It's the smallest portion of your NEAT is actually exercise
The
that you do
structured
during the day.
exercise. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so having a conversation where we're talking about like, let's look at the science behind this, let's look at the data, and then let's kind of try and like peel back some of the layers so that you can go at it from a little bit of a different, you know, belief. Now, just what would it look like if I exercised today and started to just notice how I'm feeling when I'm exercising, or noticing how I'm feeling after exercise. And so kind of bringing in like that body awareness into the equation is how I would kind of handle it for people in that camp.
That go to extremes with
Yeah.
exercise. That would have
Like,
been me. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's going to depend on the person too, obviously, but I would say that that's kind of the like where we would start. Now, for women in the other camp who have maybe just had the type of relationship with exercise that's like, I don't exercise. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, I've found that that's because they are people who did not identify as athletic in
Yep.
high school. And so they have this belief of like, well, I'm not an athlete. Those are things that an athlete does. And so then you start to realize, like, oh, yeah, well, so if you're not an athlete, you're not going to eat like an athlete. You're not going to train like an athlete. You're not going to live your life like an athlete. It's very identity based. Or even just like remove athlete, I'm not an exerciser.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're going to like, okay, well, what would it look like if you were? So building in some of the identity pieces of a woman who exercises. And one of the things that's been really interesting is I've realized there's a lot of tie between that identity of, you know, whether or not you felt like you performed well in PE when you were younger. And there's like this patriarchal tie into exercise a
Yeah.
lot of times for women too. And that's been really interesting to kind of help women uncover and just being able to approach it from a little bit more of an intuitive approach rather than like a forced metric based
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely see those trends as well. It's like that all or nothing. You're either
Yes.
exercising or you're not exercising. You're either an exerciser and you go to extremes. Like I was on that camp where I had to like really practice scaling it back and peeling back those layers of how I was viewing exercise. And then, but on the whole other side of it, and I viewed myself as an athlete. And so, what do athletes do? They exercise. But on the other side, and I've seen this with so many of my patients, when I used to put together exercise plans, I would notice some of the language they were using, and the women who weren't exercising, they also were using language like "I'm lazy." Right.
Yes.
And so, like, if you're identifying as a lazy person, then your actions are going to be in alignment with someone who's lazy. So, if you see yourself as lazy, well, then you're not going to exercise. So, yeah, it's so interesting, and I think it's like I have really been looking at just how culture like affects our thinking and relationship around exercise. And I don't know if you've ever watched Clueless.
Yes.
Okay. So I grew up loving Clueless, and I think that's where my love for fashion started because I loved her clothes. And it was just recently out on Netflix. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to rewatch it. I love the show. And by the end of it, I was like so enraged because I was watching Cher, the main character, and I was seeing how she was with exercise and how she was with nutrition. And like the whole time she was only eating vegetables, and she would talk about, oh, she felt so gross because she had like a hamburger, or she was like, they were doing this exercise video, and I forget exactly what they were saying, but I think what is so interesting is if we look at to some of the things that we grew up watching, I think we start to get some clarity on how did we develop this relationship with exercise that is really not serving us, and for it to make a little bit more sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I've noticed this, and this has been an idea that I've had for a really long time. I just haven't quite figured out how to make it work. But because depending on the age of my client, it depends on like their relationship with exercise and their relationship with nutrition. And the older my clients are, the more they've been through multiple cultural shifts.
Yeah.
But overall, what has been the trend in fitness for women? It's been shrinking yourself. It's been
Hmm.
keeping your body small. And so when I'm working with clients who are 50 plus, there's a lot in their heads about like maintaining this small
Hmm.
image. Even if they're someone who's always been in a bigger body, that's like that much more shame wrapped up into it because it's like they've never been the teeny tiny person, which is probably because genetically they never were supposed to be,
Right.
right? But it's been very interesting to see how much culture has changed just like with clients and the thoughts and beliefs that they have about themselves and their bodies. And then I would say younger clients that maybe right now are currently in their 20s or something, most of those girls are already into lifting. They're into protein. They're in
Yes.
exercise in a very different way. And so I think seeing that shift into a little bit more of an empowerment with exercise is amazing. I'm hoping that some of the other culture shifts that we're seeing with things like GLP-1s doesn't change that too much for our girls right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's such a good point because I have recognized the younger generation is definitely more about the protein, the strength training, like lifting heavy. Like when I'm at the gym, I see these young girls that are in the weight training section with me, and they're like bringing it. Like they're lifting heavy, and then I'll see like the older biddies that they're doing the smaller weights, and it's not coming from a place of shame or judgment. It's just what we've been taught, right? And
Yes.
what each generation has been taught, and just how like I think too, like they cycle through what's in and what's out, what body type is in and what body type is out. And I think that we are doing a better job where now when I'm watching shows, I'm seeing more body types. Like I'm seeing a variety, and it's not just like one size fits all. Where I grew up, I was born in the late 80s. So like 90s, early 2000s, like the stick thin, like no shape was totally in. And for me, I actually did fit the mold because that was the way my body was just genetically built. But I think at the time, because I remember my sister, she her body was different than mine, and that's normal, right? But she would get like comments about her body, and I remember we were walking home from school one day and she's like, Emily, you just don't get it, like you never had to worry about your body. And I started thinking, I'm like, oh well, maybe I don't, like maybe I'm the lucky one. But I realize as I am looking back now that I was not, just because I fit the mold for a period of time, that did not mean that like I still wasn't part of like diet culture and like the pressure that women felt to look a certain way. And when I started, like when I hit puberty, that like really, really skinny, like thin shape, it changed because I went through puberty. And that was hard. I remember wanting to like, I had broad shoulders and my hips got wider. And I remember looking in the mirror and I was like, how can I make this smaller? Like I specifically remember thinking that, like, how can I go back to what I was before? And I think that's such a great topic to talk about because I know a lot of women that I work with will struggle with like feeling like they need to be the size that they were when they were younger.
Yes, yes. Um, like go trying to chase numbers from when they were in high
Hmm.
school or whatever. I think that is a huge part of it. And it's so interesting because I feel like the same way. I have broader shoulders, and
Hmm.
it has been something that I've kind of always been self-conscious of. Like, oh man, I just have really broad shoulders. The plus side of that is I also grow muscle pretty well in my upper body, which is great.
Same.
You know? I'm like, give me upper body movements all day long because I can see very quickly that like I'm gonna grow muscle there. But anyway, that's kind of a side thing. But um, just kind of recognizing like those parts of us that are trying to morph into whatever is more culturally acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because just like you said, even in your own family with your siblings, there's different body types.
Hmm.
And one of the comparisons that I've heard before that's kind of funny, but I actually really love it is like with dogs, right? Because if you go look at a litter of puppies, you choose your puppy because of like maybe its personality or like probably some of the traits that it has. But like you go and you look at this litter of puppies and there's differences in this litter, even though same mom, same dad, there's differences, right?
Yeah.
And you choose your favorite puppy and you bring your puppy home, whatever. But like then we sometimes forget that in our own families, it's normal for there to be variances because even though you have the same parents, you still have a different genetic makeup and you might lean more towards your mom's side of the family or your dad's side of the family or, you know, whatever. And so I think that comparison can really, really get in our heads and, you know, mess things up for us. And so I think, especially with my clients, especially with my kids, I've tried to like, yep, this is just what our family looks like. And some of us are taller and some of us aren't. And some of us have bigger bodies and some of us don't, because my kids have pretty varying shapes and sizes.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it, it's just so interesting to me with just how what's accepted and what's not. And when you don't fit that mold, how that makes you feel. It makes you feel like your body isn't good enough and you're constantly having to work on it and change it. And I think you and I are very much, we've gone through some healing parts of how we viewed our body, and we feel very passionate with changing that for other women and creating awareness and showing that like you can actually feel good in your body no matter what the number says on the scale and whatever the size of your pants is. But it definitely takes time, right? And like it takes like taking a look at these, at one, I think your childhood, right? And how you were brought up, and then also the things that you were exposed to in society. And for someone starting out, and like if they're just like, oh, okay, like I never thought about this. What's one of your like favorite ways to help teach your clients just this like belief system, right? Of like identifying, well, what is a belief? what does that look like, and how can I start to see what is my current operating system?
Um, yeah, it kind of depends, but I would say probably like the easiest way to help people start spotting beliefs is helping them notice when they're saying like always or never.
Mm,
Because when we use those words, that's like, is that true? Like
hmm.
always, 100% of the time, or never, again, like 100% of the time, right? Because those are pretty extremes. But when you notice that language pattern, like, oh, is that true? Do I always? Okay, so that was a belief. I just said that thing. I heard myself say it multiple times. That was a belief. That's part of kind of all or nothing thinking. So just kind of starting to spot some different language patterns in themselves. Um, I would say that's probably the first part of the belief. And then it's also just what, um, what they're making things mean.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a big part of it too.
Like what meaning are they assigning to it? Like if you overeat your macro goal, that means what?
Yes.
Right? Like you're gonna gain fat or you mess things up, right? Um, I love talking about beliefs because that's something that so many of us are so unaware of until we start to learn about it and be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize all the meaning I was assigning to circumstances in my life that are actually like not serving me at all. Right. And I want to kind of get into we some hot topics that you and I love to talk about. Um, I definitely want to talk about clean eating and like processed foods because I actually like got into this debate the other week and I was starting to notice in some of the talk that I really feel like it just leads to so much more confusion and overwhelm
Yes.
in diet culture, in trying to hit your body goals, whatever that is. I feel like it just adds another layer of confusion and overwhelm. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like, I don't think that it has to be that complicated. And I think because I love having technology and I love having that, like, we have all the access to just Google anything, right? Like we can just find the knowledge and it's there. But at the same time, I think it can be counterproductive because then we have so much and then we are so confused and we're like, oh my gosh, we have to clean eat. We have to not eat any processed foods. And so I would love to like just talk about that because I remember texting you about it. I'm like, what are your thoughts about this? Because for me, I'm like, I just like don't have time. Like I don't have time to like nitpick everything that I'm eating and like trying to eat everything super clean and super processed. So like let's get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I feel like this is one of those things that I could talk about forever. And
Mhm.
I think it's hard because I think most things within, I guess I would even just say like for that, like the wellness industry, I think that there's good information behind it a lot of times. And I think that it's forgetting a lot of things. One thing is that like processed food. Let's talk about that for just a second. Um, Processed foods can be canned foods and it can be frozen foods. There's nothing wrong with eating frozen vegetables. There's nothing wrong with eating canned foods. And when you start talking about that, it kind of starts to alienate some people who may not be able to buy everything that is clean. And so there's a little bit of a level of noticing your privilege when you're talking
Mm.
about health and nutrition, when you're talking about clean eating. And I think that sometimes when you have those conversations, you'll start to notice, and I don't think that it's an intentional thing, but you'll start to notice that there's this like level of superiority about their clean foods and like, well, we only eat at Whole Foods. We only grocery shop there. And I'm like, oh, I love that for you. That's not available for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe because there's not a Whole Foods in their town, maybe because their cost of nutrition, like maybe they're getting all of their food from food stamps or something like that. So I think part of it is that it's like realizing you're privileged with that. And if you're someone who's able to focus on the top of the pyramid where we're talking about processed foods or biohacking things, red light therapy, cold plunges, all that kind of stuff, if you're someone who can focus on that, that probably means that everything else in your life is pretty well taken care of, which is amazing. But I just think it's like it's a place of privilege
Yeah.
to be there. So, I mean, that's part of it. And then I would also say, like, noticing the privilege and just noticing that what exactly is clean eating anyway?
Like, what's the definition?
Yes.
How are you defining clean
How
eating?
are you defining it?
Yeah.
Because even within that term, there are different levels of definitions of
Hmm.
what people say or what people do.
Yeah.
And there's this, you know, whole idea of like avoiding the dirty dozen of fruits and vegetables. And like most people are not eating enough fruits and vegetables. So let's stop shaming them for the fruits
Right.
and vegetables they are eating.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I remember like a banana. There
Yes.
was like people would because it has more carbs, okay, whatever, but like bananas were being shamed like you can't eat bananas anymore, and it's just like let's get back to the basics. And I think I love the fact that you did say, like, I always think I want to believe that in wellness culture, even diet culture, that there are good intentions, hopefully maybe at least original like good intentions. And then I think sometimes what happens, because just how our brains are wired to think in extremes, right, like then we just like we make it so extreme where then it just is impossible for anyone to really even obtain that or to even achieve it, right? Like, is it really, unless you are making your own food and growing it, can anyone really 100% eat clean
Right.
or not eat anything processed? Like, I feel like most of our foods are going to be processed. And I think sometimes we get like tied up into this that in order to hit our body goals, in order to be healthy, because that's a whole other topic too,
Oh,
your
yes. Oh,
health
yeah.
and your weight are not the same thing. Like, you can have your percent fat can be higher, but you can also still be healthy. Like, so those two aren't the same thing. But it's like, I think now I kind of missed my point because then I started going into the health and the weight not being the same thing. But I think it's just we don't have to be that extreme. I think
Yes.
that's the point that I'm making that I get so fired up with, is that because I used to go to extremes and I still catch myself going to extremes and I have to reel myself back in. But it's like it doesn't have to be, we don't have to fine tune it as much as what we feel like is needed. Now, like you said, if you have the opportunity and you have the time and you have the finances and all of that, that's fine. Like, go for it. And I think as we evolve and we grow and we learn more, we might get into more things, but it's also like just kind of keeping it like in the middle is totally fine too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of it is that, like, when we take things to that extreme and we're so worried about it, then it kind of drives things from being like the intention behind clean eating was to be healthy, but now you're being obsessive about something and that is not healthy. And I promise you, stressing out and obsessing over your nutrition does far more harm than eating a crumble cookie with your kids.
Absolutely. And think about the cost, the mental
Yes.
energy that it
Yes.
costs.
Mental load.
Yes. Of
Yeah,
like worrying about that. And it's, and I'm not saying that, like, yes, nutrition does matter. And I think you and I both agreed, like, that's going to be the biggest lever you can pull if you
absolutely.
want to like hit certain aesthetic goals and body goals. And absolutely, nutrition is the biggest lever to pull, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I think that's the point that we're trying to make here, is that it doesn't have to be so complicated.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to take a huge mental load. I think that that's another really big part of it. And we don't even realize how much we're pouring into body goals sometimes. And that's one of the shifts that I've kind of realized with my clients and kind of is what like changed the direction a little bit in my business, is because it was like when you can dial some of that back and like, okay, you want to eat clean, let's have the like clean enough to be healthy, but like dirty enough for some fun in your life,
Yeah.
right? Like there's soul food and then there's foods that are nutritious, but like both of them include being part of
Mhm.
health and balance and just enjoyment in life. Let's have some of both. It's not all or nothing. But when you're not so focused on everything with every bite that you're putting into your body and how, all the performance metrics and whatever, you have so much more mental and emotional bandwidth to be able to pour yourself into other things and
Mhm.
more impactful things, more important things. And not that your body is not important, because your body is the foundation of everything that you're doing. It is important for you to take care of your body, but obsessing over your body is never going to help you be more healthy.
Yeah. And I think that hopefully our younger generation is getting that message. I know we did not get that message. We got a completely different message. And the women before us have definitely gotten that message. And I do, I think I wanted to say something to what you were saying, and now I lost my train of thought. But I think, yes. So I felt like I had to be doing all of these things. And like I'm like, "Oh, clean eating, or I should be doing like cutting out sugar and cutting out carbs." But what I was missing was actually, how do I just fuel my body in a way that works for me in a really simple way? And I think that's where I really encourage women to start, is to learn that tool first, and then you can fine tune it. Then if
Yeah.
you want to get into the next layer of it, and you want to eat a little bit cleaner, or you want your calories to be more quality, right? Like then you can go there. But I think so many of us are missing the first like foundation of like, how do you actually fuel your body first? And then depending on your goals and, maybe like if there's some health issues going on, you might need to fine tune it a little bit more, right? But I think sometimes, and this is the theme, it just came to my head right now. This is the theme that I see so many women, they want to go right to optimal.
Mhm.
And they think
Yes.
if they just go right to optimal, they're going to get to their goals so much faster. So let's just start where we want to be. We want to eat cleaner. We want to not eat as much refined sugar or whatever that is, or least processed foods. Let's just start there. But when we do that, most women are either like, they're either on their nutrition plan or they're off their nutrition plan. They're on or they're off because they're constantly wanting to go to optimal. You can't hang in optimal forever. And then we just are like, okay, we're off our plan. Something happened. And then we stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so good. There's like five different directions that I'm
I
like, oh, I
know.
want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. But the first part of that, I think, is just like you said, building your foundation of body support. Like what's actually going to support your body. Everyone needs some type of movement in their day. Everyone needs a way to relieve stress. Everyone needs to be fueling their bodies, and what that's going to look like is going to depend on your season of life,
Mhm.
and like what you like, right? So, like, let's talk about bringing in optimal and enjoyable. Let's talk about like making things unified, like turning it into something that's going to work well for you, and um, getting away from some of the labels of the food, of the on plan, the off plan, the good foods, the bad foods, the
Mhm.
clean, the dirty, like removing some of those labels so that you can make progress that's like actually for you, instead of trying to fit yourself into someone else's plan and someone, how it works for someone else, because someone else's optimized goal is not your goal. Like it's not going to
Absolutely.
be the same. Your body metrics are different. You're going to
Mhm.
need a different approach. And so, like, what's the simplest thing you can do? Have a plant and a protein with every meal as often as possible.
Mhm.
If you don't, cool, try it again for your next meal. Like,
Yeah.
just move on from it instead of beating yourself up for it. Just like, yeah, I didn't get any protein in that meal. Huh, okay, well, what's my favorite source of protein that I could add to my next meal? And I'm going to make sure I'm adding a vegetable or two with that, and just simplifying it as much as possible and noticing when you're shaming yourself for things. I think
Mhm.
that's a huge part of it. There's so much shame that can go into our bodies and health and nutrition. We're never going to be able to change our bodies or love our bodies from a place of shame.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think when we're coming from a culture that does put labels on food as these labels are good, or these foods are good, these foods are clean, these foods are bad, these foods are dirty. When we are continuing to label foods as such, when we eat those foods that are bad or considered dirty, then we feel shame. We feel bad that we did it, that then we internalize it and say we did something bad. We are bad. And I think what you and I feel really passionate about is having women to really start to think for themselves and not rely on having other people tell you how to fuel your body, right? Like we help women give them the tools to learn how to do it themselves, right? Like I mean, I don't give my clients meal plans. I give them options and like store list and some things to help get them started. But like we're really teaching them how do you take a tool and how can you learn how to do it yourself without relying on someone to tell you how to fuel your body? Because at the end of the day, we know our bodies best. Right. And
Yeah.
like the things that you like might not be the things that I like. And like our fun foods might look different too. Like I like dessert and I want to have a dessert every day and I want a real dessert every day. And so it's like learning how do we make that fit and how do we find that balance? And I think it starts with not labeling foods as good and bad anymore. At least
Yeah.
that's like what I found with a lot of my students and myself in my own experience
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
yeah, like you can then actually when you do eat the foods that you aren't considered, as healthy, it's like, well, it's just a carb with some fat. I'm eating an ice cream cookie sandwich. I'm just eating a carb with some fat. And those are macronutrients, and our body
Yeah.
needs those nutrients.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that's been really helpful for me is removing those food labels for sure because I did not realize how often I was making judgments about myself and then making reactive decisions
Hmm.
based on how I was feeling because I ate something that I at the time was calling junk food or crap or
Hmm.
whatever. It was like, yeah, I felt like crap because I was beating myself up for eating a cookie instead of just eating the cookie and tasting it and enjoying it and having it be a part of the experience with the people that I was with. Instead, I was like worrying about how many calories were in it and just all this mental drama. And it's food is meant to be enjoyed.
Right.
And yes, of course there are things that we need to pay attention to have the best overall health, but that is going to include not obsessing about things.
Absolutely. And not like cutting out your favorite foods.
Yes.
And I love it. I love what you said. Like, food is meant to be enjoyed. And I don't think it's meant to run our lives, but it runs the lives of so many women. It ran my life for so long. Like, I felt very out of control. I felt like I either was super on or super off. And when I stopped following everyone else's rules and I started making my own rules, is when I actually learned how to do it myself and make it work and make a plan that fits for me. Um, I want to talk
Yeah.
about, do you have something else to say about
Um,
that?
well, I just one of the thoughts that came up as I was hearing you was just like that following someone else's plan idea, right? Which is like how many clients have come to you and said something to the extent of like, I just want you to tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like I'm really good at just like doing it.
All the time. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
You're like, you say that's what you want. That's not actually what you want. You don't actually want me to just tell you what to do. And how I know that is because there's that part of you that when I tell you, do this, that you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
that.
And that is such a good point because I think we're conditioned from society as we're growing up, like in the school system. I'm not hating on our school systems. I love our teachers. I think teachers are amazing and I'm so grateful for teachers.
Yes,
I think
100%.
what happens is that when we're going through life and we have to like as children we need boundaries, we need like guidelines and things like that, but I think with time with society we're conditioned not to think for ourselves. And I think that's where we're running up against where it's like, okay, well, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I feel like that's part of where that's coming from too, is that like we lost the ability to think for ourselves. And when someone tells us what to do and we don't love it and we're like, yeah, that's not really going to work. And that's happened when I used to do teach exercise plans to my patients. I would I used to do that. Oh, okay, you just tell me what to do. Sure, here's an exercise plan. And I just saw it on her face. And I just stopped myself and I was like, you're not going to do this, are you? And she's like, no. And I was like, okay, this is the point that I'm making. Like, I was intentionally
Yes.
making this point because she kept asking me, just tell me what to do. And I'm like, but that's not going to work. And I realized the friction that was like happening. So I was like, okay, well, here's a plan. And then I was just like, you're not going to do it. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, because this is not coming from you. Right. Like when it comes from within and we are stepping into our power and it's the idea is coming from us, it one is going to have skin in the game for us because we come up with a plan and we're going to want it to work. And then two, it's we're coming up with something that actually we like or that we somewhat enjoy and that we can make it fit into the phase of life that we're in.
Yeah. And I think that when you're able to like get that to click for people, it changes everything. And it's
Yes.
huge with nutrition too, right? Because like we talked about this a couple weeks ago with like trying to force someone to hit a specific number of calories or carbs or like whatever. Listen, I'm all about like let's get the data. Let's
Mhm.
figure out like what would be optimal. Hey, optimally if we put you at, these calories with these specific macros, these are the predicted results we would get. But it's a scientific experiment
Right.
because you don't live your life in a vacuum. Not every single part of your day is exactly the same every single day, day in, day out. You have different stress factors. If you're a woman, you have different times of the month where you're
Mhm.
cycling through different hormonal things. There's so many different things that go into our body. So those metrics can be really, really helpful. But when we start to only focus on the metrics, whether it's just specific exercise movements or something specific with nutrition, if we're only focused on those metrics and we're not thinking about the whole person, what's enjoyable for them, what are they actually going to do, what's sustainable long term, what fits well into this season of life that they're in. If you're not factoring in all of those things, you have these generic plans that people go, I mean, I guess I'm supposed to do this. And then they don't. And then they feel bad about it. And then, they search for another coach because they didn't really get the results that they wanted with that coach. And it just creates this cycle of endlessly chasing this body goal that you feel like is always out of reach because you've never learned to listen to yourself. What do you
Yep.
like? What's going to work for you? What are you actually going to follow through on? What can you be consistent with? Let's build from there.
Yes, preach it, Annie, preach it. Oh my goodness. That if anything from this episode today is to take away like teaching yourself to think for yourself and
Yes.
knowing that you are smart enough and that you can do it. And if you have a coach that can help teach you the tools to do that, right? Like instead of like honestly, my best advice, if you have a coach that's just telling you what to do, run the other way
Yeah,
because you're
absolutely.
gonna you're gonna stay in the same cycle. Programs, coaches, if they just give you these generic plans or they just give you, oh, here's a customized meal plan for your macros, run the other way because they're not teaching you, okay, well, how do I apply it? How do I make adjustments when you give me a meal plan and it's Friday night and I want to do date night with my husband? But here's my meal plan and I have to stick to it. And if I go off plan, well, what happens? Most women will be like, "Well, I just ruined everything." And then they'll binge the whole weekend and then they start over on Monday, right?
Yeah.
When it's like if you can learn how do you make adjustments? How do you pivot? Yeah, like we're never there are going to be some days that we are inoptimal, right? Like I will tell you this morning was not an optimal morning for me. Like I wanted to meet with you, Annie, to record this episode. And I had some things going on with my 6 year old that's struggling with anxiety and going to school. And so, like, there are going to be things that come up. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And when you know how to make adjustments, because your plan is coming from you, you are going to know how to move through it. You are going to know how to still be able to like be in alignment with what you want because you're in control, right? Because if Annie, you just told me what to do, guess what? You hold all the power. So if
Hmm.
I mess up, if I make a mistake, guess what? Who can I blame? I'm blaming you, Annie.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my coach, she told me what to do. Or she told me to do this and I didn't do it. So I'm not taking responsibility. And I'm just shifting that blame to you and just saying, well, my coach sucked. Like that doesn't work. And there's no responsibility taken. And that's like, I think so important too, is taking responsibility, full
One.
responsibility in your life.
Yes, yes, being radically responsible for your own choices. And it does go back to self trust because you have to be at a place where you're not trying to outsource that power all the time. You're
Mhm.
not constantly saying, well, someone else has the answers, someone else knows better than me. Because, yeah, guess what? There are plenty of people who know more than you, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean you don't already know enough to get started. And
Yeah,
so you might need to talk to other people. You might need to, read a book, listen to a podcast, get a coach, whatever it is. Like, get more information because information is important, but all of the information in the world doesn't do anything if you're not integrating it.
exactly. Yes, not taking the action. And I think that's where most women, it's like not necessarily like, I think most women know how to eat healthy. I really truly believe that. Like fruits, vegetables, protein, whole grains, like it's not that complicated, but I think most women don't know how to take knowledge into knowing. They don't
Yes.
know how to take, okay, this is the plan, this is the strategy that works, right? Like a strategy that we'll teach our clients, like this is a proven strategy, this works, going through these steps. But then it's like, okay, well, how do I apply it and how do I stick to it when that self sabotage, when those mental blocks come up for me? And that's where coaching comes in, right? Like, that's where I'm not telling you to do this alone. I'm not saying that you have to do it alone. What I'm saying is that you want to learn how to create your own plan for yourself and also know that you don't have to do it alone in the process. Where I think Annie and I both saw the benefits of investing in coaching. Did we have the same coach, the nutrition coach? Did you go through Amber?
Yeah. So one of the first nutrition programs I did Macros 101.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we both went into that and I think that's when it changed everything for us. We looked at food differently and we started to learn how to, okay, here's a strategy that works, and we learned how to apply it even when things came up, even when we were out of our norm. And I think that right there, that is what women are really searching for. I don't,
Absolutely.
and even though they might say, oh, we just want someone to tell us what to do, I think that they're really looking for, tell me how to do it. How do I apply these action steps? How do I apply it and make it work and make it fit into my lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, before I had done that, I had had personal trainers, I had had nutrition coaches, I had had plans, and I felt very either on plan or off plan.
Yep.
One of the first personal trainers that I hired, I remember he gave me this nutrition plan without, like, we didn't even have a conversation beforehand about like foods that I liked, foods that I didn't, any food intolerances. Like, there was no conversation whatsoever. He said, what are your goals? I told him that I had wanted to lose some weight, and he wrote me this meal plan and he sent it to me, and it was a pretty intense carb cycling plan, and he told me, like, he was a physique builder and worked with women to like get them on stage for physique building. Well, I was a mom of 4 kids, and my youngest was, I think, 2 at the time. And I was like, every single meal on this plan will be different than what I'm feeding my family. And
Mm,
that was so overwhelming to me. But he was like, if you do this for 8 weeks, you'll be stage ready. I didn't want to be stage ready. I just wanted to feel good in my clothes, like I didn't care about being a bikini competitor. It was just like, I just want to not put on my shirt and like tug at it because I feel uncomfortable with how it looks around my stomach or whatever, right?
yeah.
Like, it was so basic, but he didn't even take the time to have those kinds of conversations. But guess what? Exactly like you said, what did I do? I blamed him for the plan. It
Yeah.
wasn't mine. It was like, well, this is not a very good plan, which, like, obviously it was a fantastic plan for the right people under the right circumstances.
Right. If that's what they wanted, if you
That's
want to
what they
get bikini body ready for a competition, like go for it. And I think like that's the point is like women can want that, they can want what they want. But when they're not having a voice, like you didn't voice what you wanted, he didn't even ask you any questions. Like he
yeah.
wasn't like, well, what do you want? What do you like? Like he just
Yeah.
was like, here's
He
this
was like,
plan
you want
and
to lose
follow
weight?
it.
is the weight loss plan that I put,
Yeah.
bikini competitors on. It works really well for them. But we were talking about like carb cycling, high and low carb days. And I mean, so many, it was a very intricate plan for someone who was very beginner level with those
Yeah.
kinds of things. And I had no skin in the game because it wasn't my plan for me. It was just something that someone was telling me to do. And so, yeah, I mean, it was like the first of many experiences where I kind of went like, I thought I wanted someone to just tell me what to do. But when push comes to shove, I wanted to have some autonomy in that. I wanted to be able to, like, what's mine in this so that I can take action based on what I want, what's for me. And I think being able to find nutrition and health and fitness programs that are built for you by you is the thing that's going to make it be sustainable so that you're not constantly chasing a new plan, constantly chasing a new, whatever. Like, who else has the answers? Who else has the answers?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I know enough. I can get started. If I need more information along the way, Google is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Right. And coaching is for the stuff you can't Google. Like
Yeah.
that's
And
what
that's
your
yes.
coach.
Yes, absolutely. Like Google is not going to teach you how to, they're not going to teach you, oh, here are your mental blocks, right? Like as a coach, you're able to hold up that mirror and show, like, here's the language that you're using, here are some of the limiting beliefs that you have, and then help you work through it. Yes, absolutely. Um, I would love to keep going on, but I got to get my son to school
Yeah,
since we had a
yeah,
rough morning this morning. But I would love, I feel like there's so many other like topics that I want to go into with you, like, because I love having these conversations. Like, I love talking about how women have been tying their self-worth to their body and their results. That's definitely something that I definitely want to cover if you're up for it for next
oh yeah,
round.
absolutely, for sure.
Um, because that has been a journey of mine that I've been working on. And I think it's just so important to talk about it and just create awareness around that. But before we go, I would love for you to just share with people, like, they want to follow you, they want to learn more about like what you offer. Where can they find you? And yeah, let us know.
Yeah. Thanks, Emily. I appreciate that. And I would definitely love to continue
Okay. Yes.
any of
Okay.
these topics. Like,
Yes.
let's keep going.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do some rants. We're gonna like, this was like our first little like step into it, but like I want to bring it like with some like hardcore rants for next
Yeah,
time.
let's
Okay.
do it.
Okay.
That sounds super fun. Yeah. So if people are interested in following me, they can find me on Instagram. My handle is at Annie Miller Coaching. My podcast is Rethinking Success with Annie, and it's on every podcast platform. And I would say that those are probably the best two ways for people to get in touch with me.
Okay. Awesome. And I will link all of that in the show notes so then people can easily find you there.
Awesome. Thank
So
you.
yeah. Oh my gosh, Annie, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to have you back. And for all my listeners listening, if you guys have topics that you want us to cover, like if you're like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Send me the questions or even Annie the questions, and we would love to cover any of those topics. Because I think just the more awareness that we create, the more discussions that we have about it, will really just better help serve all of us. So, yeah, so let us know, and then I will definitely have Annie back on, and we'll go into all the weeds. We're gonna go down all the little rabbit holes, because I know we didn't cover nearly half the stuff that I wanted to, but we'll get to it. There's no rush. Right?
Yeah.
There's no
Awesome.
rush. Your
All right.
results will take the time they take. How many times have
Yep.
you said that to yourself, Annie? I say that on repeat. My results will take the time that they take.
Yep.
And I'm exactly where I need to be. No one
Yep.
is ever behind.
Your
So,
success is inevitable.
yes, I
Yes.
love it. All right. Well,
Yeah.
Annie, thank you so much. And to my listeners, remember, life is always happening for you. And I can't wait to see you next week. Bye.